very much. Hey. Can you hear? Yes. So thank you for introducing me and for all of you to come here. I will repeat a bit. I know this is a very sensitive topic here in Germany. I want to say in advance that everything that I speak only from what I have seen through my eyes and from what I heard from friends or people that I know personally. I also learned the majority of this stuff from being there and from seeing it, and not from the media, not from the Israeli media, and not from any other media source. So my name is Yuval. I live in Germany since 2021, and I will tell a bit today about my experience in the last 3 years in Germany, about stuff that maybe surprised me or not surprised me, and how I feel today, what I think that today is very necessary to do or to think or to act in this difficult, maybe terrible time we are living in. So, I studied art, and during the years I studied art in near Tel Aviv, I was a bit in a bubble. Means I was very lefty in a way, but I was very deep in the Israeli society, and slowly when I started to finish my art studies, I found myself more and more doing activism in the West Bank. And there is something when you cross to the West Bank that I don't know how to explain it, but this is like you are in Israel as a Jew, as whatever you feel like. Wow, okay. So in Tel Aviv, and I also worked with a lot of tourists, it feels very okay. It feels like Germany, like Europe, like it feels like a place that everything is very normal. And once you go to the West Bank, especially when you go and you're on the Palestinian side, you feel fear I really cannot describe. It's like someone's gonna shoot you, or I was terrified. Every time I went there, I could not believe that this is what has to be maintained to make me safe in Tel Aviv. And I knew for a very long time that I want to leave this place, but at some point it became like something I cannot postpone anymore. I literally, on the summer of 21, took a plane and moved to Germany, the first place I could go. And when I came to Germany, I thought I'm coming to a very, I thought I'm just gonna talk like I talk in Israel-Palestine about stuff, about the occupation, about the apartheid, about stuff, and everything's just gonna be fine. Like, it's Germany, they're a great democracy, really, no joke. I really, that's what they tell us about Germany also, that it's a great democracy, that human rights is the first thing here, and that, and it wasn't like that, and I will explain later. But this is from the summer of 2021 in a place called Beta. Beta is also where the activist Izenur Iji was murdered a few weeks ago by a shotgun. I don't know if you know the story. She was an American-Turkish activist who came just a few weeks before to support the people of Beta. These are people in the West Bank. There is a settlement for already 3 or 4 years that is literally stealing their land and preventing them from going to their farms. And every Friday for 4 years already, there are demonstrations there, and it's always end up very, very violently. So we have this video. I actually filmed it myself. This is a drone of the Israeli army. These are tear gas, and this is an ambulance. It's a very short video that for me shows a lot of what it feels to be there and what Palestinians are experiencing every day in their own land for literally doing nothing but demonstrating against settlers who are trying to take them away from their houses. So it's not an imaginary fear. They are really under a life risk, and they are going to demonstrate against this life risk, and they get a tear gas on their ambulance, on their faces, and that's a good scenario. In a bad scenario, they kill them. Like they killed her, like they almost every week kill someone there, and like they killed last week a few teenagers there. So this is what I brought with me here in my head when I came to Germany. Knowing that there is an apartheid, and that today even the ICJ rules that it's likely to be an apartheid regime. They don't use the word apartheid, but they go very, very near this definition. And I came to Germany and have, for example, this picture. This is me standing with this sign a few months after I came here, and Bibi Netanyahu came to visit. This is the reaction I got. After other Israelis pushed me away from the demonstration, I stood there in Brandenburger Tor with this sign, and I learned German through this sentence. And yeah, I knew before that it's a thing to say apartheid here, that the conversation the conversation over what is anti-Semitic and what is not is a very, I don't know, loud and sensitive topic. But it's not the same until you experience it and you see how crazy it is. So warum kann ein antisemitischer Araber in Deutschland politisch aktiv sein? That's another point. I don't look for many people as the way a Jewish person should look like. I look Arab to them, and that's brought to me another topic, that Germany thinks Israel is just a country for the Jews they try to kill and escape. But it's also a country that at least 50% of its Jews are from Arab countries, like my family who came from Yemen or from Egypt. Here is Aden Jews on the plane to Palestine on the 50s. This is not my family, but it's the same way my family came to Palestine. And I want to talk a bit about before October 7, what happened. Because for many people, the 7th of October was a big surprise, but for people who were active and listened and monitored everything that is happening, it was no surprise at all. So we have the elections in November 2022. And after these elections, I think we all know that there is the most right-wingy extremist government Israel ever had. And this government did things that were incredible, like racial laws. There was a law that passed on the summer of 2023 says that a rape is not just a rape, that if the rape was the background for the rape was nationality, the punishment is bigger. For example, I visited Palestine, for example, Israel, on a few months after this government came to power, and it was not the same place that I remembered. It was always extreme, but the way people showed racism was incredibly high. This was like, there is no rules anymore, there is nothing to stop people from doing. I remember a story, I went to a bus, and there was a Palestinian guy came back from work, and the driver told him, you cannot get inside, you're dirty. And I was like, what? And he told him, yeah, you cannot go, but go to the end of the line, you enter later. And he went to the end of the line, and the moment everyone entered, he closed the door and started to drive. And I remember I called the company, they did this whole show of like, we really care, and the driver, we punished him, and yeah. But that was the environment. And this story specifically is from the summer, I think 2 months before the 7th of October, or 1 month. And you have this guy that the police arrested for no reason, really, just they arrest Palestinians in many of the cases for no real suspicion, like you cannot do in any democracy. And they put his Magen David on his cheek. And at the same time, when they did this on the Golan Heights, that it's an occupied area of Syria, they also did it with this Magen David. And I can say that not only me, but also many other Jews, and also in Palestine and here, we felt like something is going crazy among the nationality of the Israelis. This Magen David becomes more and more symbol of violence, that for us it's a very difficult thing. This Magen David, it's also our sign. My grandparents used to wear it as a necklace. This is just a bit of the background. And feeling this extremely violent environment in Israel made my eager to be active even higher, and I heard about this event. It was in a bar in Neukölln. It's a neighborhood in Berlin that accommodates the highest number of Palestinians, I think, in Germany. And they opened a bar there that is like a very, I would say, anti-Palestinian bar that accommodates regularly Zionist stuff that are very, very controversial and not always based facts. And they initiated this brochure with the money that was made to fund that was funded by a budget that was supposed to be against anti-Semitism. And in very short, it takes a lot of facts about 1948, when Israel was established, and it calls them a mythos. And one of the mythos for this brochure is the Palestinian Nakba of 1948. Nakba in Arabic is a very big disaster, and the Nakba of 48 describes the mass deportation of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes, that made many of them refugees till today. And I heard about the Nakba from my grandmother. I have one grandmother that came from Italy, from Rome. They escaped in 1938 when the racial laws started to be stronger. She was kicked out from school because she was a Jewish, and she came with her family to Palestine, what was back at the time Palestina. She was 9 years old, and in 1948 she was 18. And she served in what was called the Palmach. It was, I think, what later became the IDF. And she was not a fighter. She used to cook for people, but she knew a lot about the mass deportation. And she always told me about the mass deportation. And she always told me that it's a real thing. And as a kid growing up in Israel, not denying the 1948 Nakba, it was sometimes crazy. Like, people don't know how to behave. They always act like Palestine was long time ago, like it was 2,000 years ago, not like it was 10 minutes ago and the people are still alive seeking for their homes. So I came to this event knowing that I know this story from my grandmother who escaped the Holocaust. And I wanted to challenge them by literally saying facts, not by disrupting and nothing, just waiting for them to speak and then speak by myself. And it didn't end up very well. I was at some point the security guy entered the room and said that someone in the crowd is filming, and he blamed me for filming against the rules, which I didn't do. And he asked me to leave, and on the way out I stopped for a moment and I said that I am coming from this place, I am a Jewish and I'm an Israeli, and I perceived everything that was said before as a pure propaganda, anti-Palestinian propaganda. I also said, I mentioned that I've seen the separation and the apartheid in my own eyes. And the next thing that happened is that I left the room and two undercover police officers jumped on me and started to beat me. That's when I was already outside the room. I was on the way out. And yeah, it was kind of terrible, sincerely, to feel like not safe in Germany. And it didn't end up then. The police blamed me for resisting the arrest. It's something that happens to a lot of Palestinian activists here. They're actually, I have 0 friends that are Palestinians and active, and they're not facing some legal process now. All of my friends are currently under police investigation of some sort. I am convinced that most of these investigations will end up with nothing because it's just to scare them. There is no ground. But I had to pay 2,000 euros, and I decided to go to the court and to challenge these accusations. So I was lucky to have a voice record, and during this voice record you can clearly hear that these undercover police, not only that they are not saying that they are police, they just arrested me because the security guy told them, I want you to arrest him. And they say, okay. And the next thing that happens is that they jump and they arrest me very violently. So I was lucky, and the judge, after hearing the voice record, described it as a false accusations, and said that the state will carry the cost of my trial and that I am acquitted. This is a picture of this small victory. And yeah, just a second. So it's very difficult in Germany to come with your story from Israel that is based on things that you saw all your life, and then face a conversation that blames you. Literally, Germany is blaming me, even if it's not official, or people like me are accused of anti-Semitism because of the very simple fact that we care a lot about human rights of people living under the Israeli regime. And I can say that among these 3 years, I learned that I have to find ways to mobilize, not alone. This event teach me that I am not strong alone as I want to be. And I gathered with as much groups as I could. Some groups are anti-occupation Israelis who lives in Germany, Israelis for Frieden. They're in Berlin, and every Friday we go in front of the Auswärtiges to ask Germany to stop weaponizing Israel. I saw last week that there is a slightly good news about that. Germany kind of holds their weapon holds. They don't send weapons at the moment, which I find it good. I think it's still not enough. And I want to say a word about the 7th of October and how I felt this day. And then I would really like to have a conversation with you. It doesn't have to be questions. It can also be just people say stuff, and we can talk about it. But the 7th of October, I remember the night before I spoke to a friend that is in Tel Aviv. And at the time, I was in a lot of groups that were monitoring the occupation. So we were always very updated by stuff. And around 6 o'clock, 6:30, this friend sent me a message and said, see, we just talked about rockets and there is an alarm. And I woke up from this message and I opened my phone and I started to see in the other groups some terrible pictures. And immediately, I already saw horrible pictures from Gaza, of really, I don't want to describe, but it was terrible. And I found this day also like the only day I perceived Israeli media as a reliable source, because it was horrible. I think also the IDF itself was not as updated as people who watched the media was in that day. It was a very bad experience. You heard people in their basements are calling for help and nobody comes and their house is burning. I feel it. I don't think anyone can blame me at not feeling the pain of people there. But I think at the evening I already understood, and I was not alone, that this is going to end very fast. It's 1 or 2 days, Israelis are going to be safe again. But the amount of death we're going to see in Gaza in the following months is going to be incredibly high. I remember my assumption was 30,000 people that Israel is going to kill, and I was wrong. These are much larger numbers. And this is taking the most extreme right government Israel ever had and giving it the greatest weapon, the greatest legitimacy to literally genocide the Palestinians. And getting rid of the Palestinians, and I need to say it as an Israeli, is an idea that Israel always flirted with. It was not ready to accomplish it. Even now, it's maybe not accomplishing it in a large scale, but it's large enough for us to stand and say no. And it's very important for me to show this point, that this government in Israel and maybe also other governments, they don't really care about the Jewish life in Israel or any life. They are addicted to a wrong methodical way of killing. They think killing will bring safety. They think it's okay to hold the Palestinians under a crime against humanity. I mean, apartheid, separation, it's crimes against humanity, occupation. These are all crimes against humanity. And there is no connection, in my opinion, between the will of Germany to help the Jews and what it's doing. They think it's connected, but it's not connected. It's exactly the opposite. If you send them weapons, you wish them death. Both sides. I mean, it's not equal, but also the Israelis are not benefiting any safety from these weapons. And yeah, I think that's all. And I'd like to hear people from the crowd.
So are there any questions, any comments? Anything else so far? Wow, okay.
Come on, nothing.
So this is the horrible microphone. No, it's okay. Thanks a lot for this interesting talk. I was wondering, like, before the 7th of October, there was like a big wave of protest, anti-governmental protest in Israel. And what I heard from the media is that it's like super low at the moment, but maybe you can give a short perspective on like what are people you've been organizing with, like what is the situation in Israel right now regarding anti-governmental and anti-war protest?
Yeah, that's hope, I think. I'm also trying to be hopeful. I think I know the Israeli society a bit. Because for many years that I lived there, I really prayed for big demonstrations, and it almost never happened. But when these demonstrations came, I always went to see, to support. And sometimes it was good, sometimes I didn't like it. And in this case, it showed to me something I was a bit surprised that Israelis are so, that they can do it. I think they were brilliant at mobilizing, at going to the streets, at blocking everything. They almost achieved what they want, which is this judicial reform to stop. But with a more critique lens, this demos was also to preserve the apartheid system. I feel like I need to apologize that I say apartheid, but I'm sorry, I don't have another word for that. I think all the definitions of apartheid are there. Even if with the legal lens you go a bit differently, you go more Zen, you can find some differences. It's kind of apartheid. It's a form of apartheid. And the Israelis never cared about that. And once you don't act against that, the only thing the government has to do is to push the button of the reflex of your safetyness. And it's very, very easy in a place like Israel, because you are always in the distance of one checkpoint from a war. Like, it was clear that if there will not be enough soldiers in Gaza, the Hamas will do what they did. In a way, it was not a surprise. I'm not jumping into conspiracies here. I'm saying that the government understands that. Also now, this idea of preserving this war, it's exactly what this government, the tool that they have to shut it off. And 2 weeks ago, I think, there was a big demo again. There was like almost 1 million people around the country, and it was touching. I was a bit sad that they go out only for the hostages, and they don't say a word about the mass killing that happened with their troops. So, yes, hearing my parents that they went a lot to these demos before the war started, they lost any type of hope. Like, they still had hope. They thought they are doing this for their grandchildren, and now they understand that no matter what they will do, they're going to lose. And people are just looking for ways to live. Yeah.
Could you describe a little bit the situation of people that still live in Israel, Palestine, that you know, that you also have collaborated with or organized with? From a leftist point of view, like, is there any kind of organizing that can happen, and that, like, because also I imagine the government is prolonging this war to keep governing, and they want to do. You said that they don't care for the Jewish life, at all, and they will have to find ways to also like secure that they are still keeping governing. So could you a bit describe how your friends that are still there find the optimism, the hope to organize themselves, and how do they organize themselves?
Well, they don't. Sincerely, like my radical friends, the one that were active in the West Bank, there is one organization looking the occupation in the eye. That was like a group of people that used to go to the West Bank a lot, being with the shepherds, trying to protect the shepherds from settlers' attacks. And they became more famous, and they managed for the first time after many years to make the occupation something that more people care about. So I can say that from this part of the left, people are going mad in the last year. Really, I have so many good friends who are very active and are still, but seeing this thing, how everything is manipulated and how the Israeli society cannot understand that there is a very, very big crime happening all the time, and that they must stand against it and change the way they live. They have to give up, in a way, the supremacy from the river to the sea. I mean, right now, if you go from the river to the sea, you have the Israeli rule that is locking the Palestinians in small prisons. And the Jews are living in it's not only the Jews, but let's say the people with the 48 passport, with the Israeli passport, the blue one, they live freely. To explain to them that it's not freedom, that's a very hard mission. And all my lefty friends are very frustrated by that. That's from the leftist point of view. From more center or center-left point of view, something happened in the 7th of October, and I feel like they can talk only about one thing, and it's the hostages. And every hostages that I see that is returning, I'm also happy. I'm not against the hostages or anything. But the inability to see the pain that you, with your troops, caused to another people, I mean, this is something I don't know how they can live with. But they definitely focusing only on that. And also to your question, the big demos, it's only about the hostages. Nothing about peace, nothing about equality, nothing about fix the situation, or not even against the government. They only talk about the hostages. And I think for the government, it's a great gift, because they just say, so we don't bring the hostages back, because then you will demonstrate against other stuff. So let's keep the hostages there. Again, it's not a conspiracy. I'm just saying how I see the things. And this is a very, very cynical government that we see there. It's like, yeah.
So thanks for your speech. And I have a question, and I would like to know what's the position of the anarchist comrades about the armed resistance from the Palestinians. Do they consider it as a legitimate thing to do, or are they like critical toward it?
I cannot answer for the Palestinians. I'm sorry. Okay. Israel is actually it's a good question from the Israeli side, because they are also. It's a bit absurd, but the attack of 7th of October, the area where the people live there, they are more lefty. These are not the people who vote for this government. So among them, we had cases of very lefty people who were killed. Vivian Silver, if you know this story, and many others. Actually, if you go through the victims, the direct victims of the 7th of October that lived in the kibbutzim near, many of them are now speaking for peace. And they are speaking against the government. They are speaking against the war from day one. There is a very touching video of a 17-year-old girl that she speaks, oh my God, like 5 days after it started, she was in her house. There were people trying to kill her in front of her house, and she survived. And she says, I cannot go to sleep because I know what's going to happen now. They're going to kill so many innocent people, and they will not prevent it. So I think from the radical left side, and I go to the most radical part, of course, we don't like what happened, and we don't support violence, but we are also people who always had the tools to fight without violence. We were never under the boot of the occupation and the apartheid. And I think that many of the radical left, we are not in a position to judge what they did. But I'm not saying they are above any critique. I'm saying that this is not our job. Our job is first to take care of what we do. Because since the 7th of October, we did, I'm saying we, I mean blue passport, blue Israeli passport, we did more crimes by far than what the Hamas did in the 7th of October. By far, I mean by any scale you want to measure. If you want to measure kids that Israel killed, if you want to measure by what they did to people in the prison, how Israel just kidnapped people from their houses under crazy regulations that only Israel had. So yeah, I think they will all tell you that the 7th of October happened within a context of the occupation of the apartheid, and they will also tell you what I said, that we are doing bigger crimes at the moment. We should talk about our crimes first.
Do we have more than 5 minutes?
So thanks for your presentation. You described the negative consequences that you experienced for criticizing Israel. And my impression is that there's a significant part of the German left that still stands behind Israel and the Israeli government, even since the 7th of October. And I was wondering what your experiences have been like with regards to reactions coming from German leftists, your personal experiences.
Yeah, it's a bit complicated to say, I mean, because the German left is quite big, but I will say that, for example, when we started with the demonstrations against the Auswärtiges or whatever, I'm sorry, my German is very bad, a lot of Germans came. And I think many of them, I appreciated that because I don't think they didn't want to take a stand, but it was a bit easier for them to do it with the Israelis, that they know that it's 100%, you know, we're talking about our families that live there, we're not out of context. So there is a support, a way of support from the German left. Also, some NGOs showed some way of support and understanding this situation from a lens of human rights and not just from a Stadträson and all this stuff. But I am more worried about the German center left and the fact that the Grüne, for example, were such a big supporters of Israel after and before, and the way Germany is blocking every critique. I mean, because the current government, correct me if I'm wrong, it's considered to be a center-left government in Germany? Yes, I'm wrong, I'm right? And this government blindly supported fascist actions of mass killing of another country that did not help any Jewish life. I can guarantee that. That's the only thing I'm fully convinced all the time. This is not guaranteeing any Jewish life. Nowhere in the planet, not in Israel, not in Germany, not in Europe, not in the US.
So can you talk about Israeli media and how Israelis get informed? Official numbers are like more than 40,000 killed people, 20,000 children, 21,000 missing children under the rubble, weaponized starvation. So do Israelis know about all that? How do they get informed?
That's a great question. I think when this thing started, I was still a lot in touch with this organization looking the occupation in the eye. And their first hopes was that the Israeli public doesn't know or don't understand what's going on. Even though the reactions on the first month was kill them all, there are no innocents in Gaza, exterminate them, like terrible stuff, really terrible, terrible stuff. People who don't speak Hebrew, I felt bad that I speak Hebrew in the last year because of reading all this stuff. I wish I would not understand it. It would be gibberish for me. The amount of public figures who called for the obliteration of Gaza, it was clear, crystal clear from day one what's going to happen. And the Israeli media not only took a side, they are so, wow, they are so pushing this thing. They bring to the TV, they bring people to talk, they bring the most radical right-wingies. They bring the most terrible voices. Every critique on Israel abroad, they call it an anti-Semitic thing. That's actually a bit like in Germany. Even my case with the court, I've tried to publish it in several Israeli newspapers because I wanted the Israeli public, at least some of them, to read that I have great comrades here, Palestinians, Lebanese, they're great. They're not joke. Like these people showed solidarity in the most beautiful way. They sent me messages after the 7th of October of, you're in the most terrible position now, you're not there and not there, it must be so difficult. I wanted to tell this story. Even Haaretz, which is considered to be lefty, blocked it. Like the editor told me, I'm sorry, it's not for our newspaper. So the newspapers are very complicit. They are not doing their job. In Haaretz, you can still read data, and you can find the data very easily, but they are all still calling this a war, and it's the most justified war in the universe for them.